inviting you all to feel into the sacred fire, into this breeze above us, into these sacred trees that hold the space. I invite you all into dreaming, into visioning, into being. Through the story, we can tune into the wisdom of the land, the wisdom of our dreams and the wisdom of our visions. As we enter into this last dark week before winter solstice, we are given the opportunity to root deeper into our dream weaving, into our wild dreams. My hope is that through the story that you can anchor ever more deeply into your hearts and into your souls, into your feet, as you dream and vision and weave, as we cross over the threshold into next year. And so our story takes place along a mountainside with an ocean that weaves and winds around it. There was a girl that lived in a village there, and she loved to slip into sleep. She would slip into sleep as she would walk the mountains. She'd slip into sleep as she walked along the shores, dreaming of far and distant lands. Her mother would find her slipping into sleep as she turned over the hay in the cowshed and found her with dreams no eyes and hay nestled in her hair. And so the girl would weave her ways of dreaming in her community. One day her friend said to her, "Let us go into the hillside. Let us gather the blueberries so that we can feast together." And so they gathered their willow woven baskets, and they walked up to the mountainside. And there they found these beautiful, big, succulent and juicy blueberry bushes, and began to gather and put it into their basket. Now the girl could feel herself slipping into sleep as she gathered the berry into her basket, feeling the sensation of finger and thumb and blueberry. She lost herself in the picking and the gathering. So much so that in her dreamlike state she looked up and she saw a bigger bush further afield. And so she gathered her basket and walked to the blueberry bush, gathering, feeling, sleeping and slipping into this dreamlike exchange with the blueberries. And so beyond she saw a bigger and a brighter bush, and she went over and gathered. When she could feel that her basket was full, she looked up to see if she could see her friend. But her friend seemed to have disappeared into the mountainside. And so she began to call out to her, for she knew that these mountains could be treacherous without a friend. But as she called out, this thick mist began to descend onto her and onto the path, and she could no longer see where she was going. She could feel a sense of fear into her body as she knew that these rocks and these mountains and these hillsides had sharp edges and crevices, and without sight she would not know where to go. And so she carefully moved her feet over the rocks and over the bushes to see if she could find a way. But the mist seemed to be filling her and holding her, that she did not know where to go. And she knew that if she stayed the night, she would not make it into the morning. And then she began to hear a strange sound encompassing her. And she thought it might be the beasts of the mountain that her grandmother used to share about. And when she looked further into the mist, she could see that there were hooves. And as she looked up, she saw these great antlers and wondered what they could be. In that moment, a gust of wind came and lifted the mist, and there she saw a herd of deer. One giant stag with big horns cascading into the heavens, some fawns and some mothers. And she felt it was with them that she would find safety, for they know the deer paths. And so she began to walk with them across the mountainside. Luckily, they were going really slowly as the fawns were taking their time, and sometimes it felt that when she tripped and stumbled that they were waiting for her too. And so they began to lead her across the mountain, taking her to places that she's never been before. But she felt in her heart and in her body that this was the way that she would find safety. Soon the deer herd began to lead her past a ravine with giant yew trees that reached up and up and out. She saw hawthorns and elder. She saw big cascading waterfalls that she never noticed. And they began to go closer and further up into the mountain. And there before her she saw a chasm in the mountainside, a great cave. And she thought, this could be a place that I can rest until the day breaks. And so she walked with the deer into the cave, into this dark, damp cave. She did not know how long or far they had been going, and the darkness encapsulated her and gave her a big warm hug. And as they were nearing the edge of the cave, she began to see warm and rosy color, a fire that began to imbue and bring light to this cave. And there, right at the end of the cave, she saw two people, an old man and an old woman. The old woman was sitting around the fire, creating stories and weaving words into the fireside. And the man was sitting near a great big pool, a deep, dark, oceanic pool that had all the colors of the world. And so she watched how the deer went up to the woman and sat by her. And the woman began to milk the deer and place the milk in the pot on the fireside. And she went up to the woman and she said, I found myself on the mountain at this time of night, and I'm sorry to bother you, but I wonder if I can spend the night. The woman looked at her and said something to her husband that she could not understand. And the woman said to her, no, you cannot stay one night, but you must stay a year and a day. And after that year and a day, you may go. And in this year and a day, we ask that you support us and you serve us and you help us with our work. For we are tired and old and we could do with the support.